So today I'm going to be talking to Jim McCann. For anyone who doesn't know, Jim is the founder and chairman of 1-800-Flowers, as well as the founder and chairman of Clarim Media, which houses Worth, Techonomy, and CDX. And today our session title is Confessions of a Climate Convert. So a little bit of context. In March, Jim, you attended the Techonomy climate event, and you had a bit of an epiphany about the urgency of climate change.
Well, the truth be told, it was over a cup of tea for me and a cup of coffee for you at the office when I confessed to you about, wow, how this event that I had the opportunity to attend in Mountain View, California, that Techonomy and Worth put on about the climate really did change my point of view. Okay. And it was you, Eva, who said, geez, you ought to write about that. And then it was you who helped me when you said, send it to me, I'll be happy to give you some editorial help. And it worked. And the message I had there for you that day in our break room and that we got to write about
which you can find in the sustainability issue that is scattered all around this venue.
Right. Is the truth be told, what I said to you that day was, I would confess that I didn't, up until that event, I didn't really give climate and all the efforts around it its proper consideration. I was lazy enough to think that technology is advancing so quickly, computing power is advancing so quickly, there's so many smart people working on fixes out there that somehow someone else would take care of it. And it was listening to the data that I heard at that event in Mountain View, listening to the people of science, listening to people who've all of a sudden discovered how it's a great area to invest in, which gave me, it scared the heck out of me. Mm-hmm. And being a father and more importantly, a grandfather, I started thinking, wow, I have no right to think that someone else is going to solve this issue. And I had no right to think that even little old me in my little world could really have an impact. And I think what we've heard consistently today, it's the accumulation of all those 1,000 cuts that'll make a difference, and we all have a responsibility to do it. And as a leader of a family, to get my grandkids talking about this, to get them all thinking about this, has frankly since March been really rewarding. So our summer dinner conversations at our beach house have been a little bit more robust, a little bit more meaningful, and they're doing some homework around the subject. So I feel like listening to data like Bill Gross presented at Mountain View, and he used the example that of carbon particulates in the air. The year he was born, there were 315 carbon particulates in the air per 1,000 units. And fast forward to today, it's 415, so nearly a 1/3 increase in carbon particulates. So his point is, we not only need to stop polluting our air and our environment, but we need to reverse it as well. Mm-hmm. And to hear him talk, he's so eloquent, and I've been a fan of his for 30 years. To hear him talk about how first we used energy that was biological. We lift things up, we put things down. And then we went to chemistry, where we burnt everything in sight to create energy. And then we should be and are now moving into a physics era, where we use physics to create energy in a clean and renewable and storable way. So to hear people like that, and then Ryan Pachantsaram, who wrote the book with John Doerr, he presented here this morning. I've gotten to know Ryan over the last 4 or 5 years really well. I work with him and John on some other business, and I think the world of them. Mm-hmm. And to read the book that they put together, and to see John put his money where his mouth is, literally and in a major way, by donating $1.1 billion to Stanford University to create a school of climate. Well, I know I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and certainly not the smartest guy in this room, but if all the smart people I know and respect are really tuned into the problem and are tuned into the fixes, and if now we see an alignment of capitalism and profit motivation and the swelling of a movement, I went from being frightened to concerned to now being hopeful.
It sounds like some of the innovations that you heard explained about at the Techonomy event really resonated with you. Was there anything else that you heard at that event that really helped drive the message of climate change home?
Well, a little thing that will make a difference in our day jobs at 1-800-Flowers. My son James runs our plants division, and I put him in touch with Maddie Hall, who is a biophysicist, a biochemist, who presented that day. She has a startup company that's teaching plants to super consume carbon, plants and trees. The only problem is they don't naturally reproduce yet, but they'll still have a 30-year life and eat carbon in great quantities out of the atmosphere. So my son James is working with her on how can we get some of our growers that we work with to produce these plants that they're giftable and consumable. And so plants eat carbon anyway, but to have them do it at a 30 or 100x rate would be beneficial for all of us. So that's one little thing that's come out of it.
There were so many incredible points made at that conference, and it was incredibly inspiring.
As has been the case today.
Exactly. My next question for you is, what do you think all business leaders should do to switch to renewable energies and practices?
Well, I think we have, I would refer you to my book club. What I mean by that is, I mentioned Ryan and John's book on climate, and of course we have another of my heroes here today, Seth Godin, who has the Carbon Encyclopedia today. It's Not Too Late is the subheading. So, I mean, we have some of the smartest, best communicators in the world who've given us roadmaps on all the little things we can do that'll result in a bit of a crescendo. And there's a lady who just wrote a book, Living Life in Crescendo. She's the daughter of Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Effective Leaders. And her book is coming out next month, and I've just been in touch with her. But I think we're experiencing the beginning of a crescendo in climate awareness and our effectiveness at beginning to deal with it.
And there are so many great resources out there for people to have access to and to educate themselves on this problem. And something that I've really felt at this event and at our previous events is that this is really more than just one business leader moving toward a more sustainable future. It's an entire movement that everybody can get involved with. And for my last question for you, as we're quickly running out of time, for those business leaders who are still skeptical about the urgency of climate change, what would you say to them?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts after March and up through today is that as a business leader, I have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to jump in front of a parade that's been started and is getting momentum all the time, as is evidenced by the quality of the participants here at this event, you. And so if the parade is already forming, politicians are smart, they run to the front of the parade. And I think we as business leaders should run to the front of the parade too, for all of our stakeholders. You heard Mike from City Winery talk about it's important to his employees. It's important to our team members too. It's important to our families. Our kids are talking about this. Therefore, it's important to me. It's important to our community, our customers, our vendors. And so it's the right thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. And as I say to my friends who are still the critics, China is building coal factories, so it doesn't really matter what we're doing here. Well, you know, we're going to die anyway, so why not today kind of thing? Doesn't make any sense to me. But if we as a country and as individuals in our families, as members of our community, as members of our business leadership, if we can be setting an example, if we as a country can lead the world as we have in so many things, then we'll create the new technologies that can replace the 41st new coal plant in China. And at the end of the day, my response to friends who are doubters is, why not? What's the harm in joining this movement? It won't hurt anybody. We have to be rational about not crushing other kinds of fuels until we have adequate replacements. But a common, sensible approach, setting goals, measuring our path there, we always get there. A friend of mine, Jim Canavino, just mentioned to me earlier, we did it in the automobile industry by setting goals for carbon emission and for mileage standards. Set a goal, measure our way there, create the rewards, and create the economic incentives for the really smarty pants people out there, like Bill Gross and company, to go make these inventions. And I think it'll roll up into a beautiful noise. Why not?
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Jim. We're out of time.
Thanks, Eva.